All right, we're going to get started in just a little bit. I'm just finalizing some things behind the scenes and kind of excited to present this machine today. It actually traveled, or I should say, she traveled all the way from Wisconsin to Kentucky with Susie and myself, and belongs to a dear friend, Julie Gerke, and Julie is from Wisconsin also. So you can imagine this machine was brought to the old workshop in Oconto, and I had a chance to meet Julie and also Douglas, her hubby, and they had previously brought another machine by. It was a Singer. Now, this obviously isn't a Singer. This is a new home, but the secret of this machine is it was branded New Home, but it was actually made by another company. If anyone has a hunch what company made this New Home and branded it New Home, go ahead and type that in the live chat. I'll give you a big hint. It has something to do with a snake, and it has something to do with a company that was founded in the 1920s, a real late comer to the sewing machine realm, considering a lot of the other mainstay companies came on the scene in the 1800s. So the company that made this New Home really kind of came to the party kind of late, but they really have built an incredible legacy of fabulous machines, including this rare Model 444 that we're going to be checking out today. All right, so let me put on a little bit more Asian Japanese style music, and then we will jump into this live stream and kind of check this machine out, see what y'all think. All right, I'm going to put us on pause real quick. I'm going to try to put us on pause real quick. And I'm going to be covering some, I got some real good feedback the last time when I presented some maintenance tips and demonstrated some maintenance tips on the Fall 332 that Susie and I just shipped back, along with shipping that very rare Nordic Husqvarna green machine, the Swedish beauty of Swedish beauties, to Candido and Rachel out in New York. And Susie just shot me a quick note saying they did receive the machine yesterday out in New York. Candido shot a video, probably an unboxing that would have probably run about 2 hours. It takes a long time to unbox a machine when you get it from the workshop. I just galvanize a cocoon around the machine to protect it and to safeguard its travel. You can imagine traveling from Kentucky to New York, or traveling from Kentucky to Montana, or Kentucky to California, or Kentucky to Switzerland, or Kentucky to the United Kingdom, all places that we've shipped machines, or Kentucky to Canada, as we've done multiple times, all kinds of bumps and bruises and kicks and drops. So I really try to fortify that machine. The first machine we took into the UPS store in Corbin, Kentucky, they looked at that and they said, "What are you going to do? Airdrop it?" Probably. I know some of our machines traveling through these transfer points have probably taken a tumble 15 feet to the ground from the conveyor system, and yet they arrived unscathed. And it just goes to show you, what, when we value something, when we treasure something, we safeguard it against any odds of damage, right? Yeah, we do. All right, a quick start to the classroom. And also a warm welcome to Julie, who is in a real busy phase or a season of her life right now. And I'm so pleased she was able to put her life on pause and join us for this live stream today. This machine belonged to her mom, nicknamed affectionately Mitzi. And that's why you'll see the name Mitzi in the title. I also am going to share a link to the Cow Country Facebook page. Julie shared a kind of a quick family summary of this very special machine. And I'm going to read it to you, but that way you can also look at some of the progress photos as well that I shared with Julie. I also posted them on Facebook. I think it took me 4 posts to try to capture at least a small handful of the phases that I took this very special Model 444 through. I only take just a smattering of pictures of the steps that I take the machine through. And yet I believe there's probably almost 200 pictures. So you can imagine 300, 400 phases that this Model 444 went through in order to get it ready for this red carpet debut of this live stream. So I'm going to share that link right now, and then you can check out some of the pictures as well of there we go. You can share out some of the pictures as well of the phases that I took Julie's mom's machine through. And this is only one of the links to one of the posts. So you'll have to kind of look at the front page of the Cow Country Facebook page, and then you'll see photo group 1, photo group 2, photo group 3, and I believe there's a photo group 4 as well, showing more phases that this machine was taken through. So if some of you didn't guess yet, I'm going to look back here. Yeah, Genomi, one of our friends in the live chat typed Genomi. It's going back a ways in the live chat. The rough. I don't know if I'm getting that right or not. Oh, and one of our friend is from the Bronx, New York. Bronx, New York. I love it. We recently shipped a machine back to the Bronx in New York. It was that Singer. What was it? Singer. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's right. Singer 404. We shipped that machine back, the Singer 404, to our dear friend who makes soap. makes soap in the Bronx. And I know that she's having fun with that machine right now. We've shipped a number of machines to New York and a number to Brooklyn, New York as well. So I don't know if Bronx and Brooklyn get along. I better be careful. If the Bronx and Brooklyn people don't get along, then I might find myself in trouble pretty quick. But yeah, check out those progress pictures. It gives you an appreciation. We've gotten countless machines over the years that have been initially taken to a service center, including that one that came from Canada. And the depth of service that they give to their machines, because they have so much overhead, is just real shallow. The depth that I take a machine through in the workshop is just at another level. And I've had people, even other people that do work like I do or similar to the work I do, say, holy man, how many hours did you spend on that machine? Well, the one you're looking at on screen right now, Mitzi's machine, now Julie's machine, I spent probably about 16, 17 hours on that machine. Is it worth it? You darn right it is, because it brings that level back to greatness for the machine. And when that owner gets that machine back, if they've used it previously, they're just blown away by what that machine can do now. And this Janome made machine really is a great machine. They engineer a lot of quality into it, quality you're not going to see in the machines of today. Now, let me share a little bit of a history about Janome and also a little bit about New Home, because they're hand in hand. And then you'll be able to gain a deeper appreciation for the roots that brought this great machine to the camera today. So let's start with New Home, that goes back further than Janome. And I'll share a little bit of the details of that company. I've got to get my cheat sheet out here. Okay, so a little bit about Janome, or a little bit about New Home, excuse me, a little bit about New Home. The predecessor to the New Home sewing machine company was the Gold Medal sewing machine company. So take notes. This might be on your midterm exam. Take really good notes. So the predecessor to the New Home sewing machine company was the Gold Medal sewing machine company. I love that name, don't you? Gold Medal. It just tells you right away they started with a vision of greatness. They started with a vision of, we're not going to make a mediocre sewing machine. We're going to make a sewing machine that will last generation upon generation upon generation. And even this machine that would have come out in the late 1960s, early 1970s, it just speaks of greatness. You just look at it and you go, that's a tank. It's built like a tank. And I can tell you, toting it around the workshop, it's a heavy, heavy machine. So it was owned, I'm referring back to the Gold Medal sewing machine company. It was owned by Johnson, Clark and Company of Orange, Massachusetts. So the roots of New Home really go all the way back to Massachusetts. And that company goes all the way back to 1860. So it came on the scene, the roots of New Home came on the scene a short time after Singer. Singer, most of you know, came on the scene in 1851. New Home roots go all the way back to 1860. It was reorganized as the New Home Sewing Machine Company and also has ties to Wheeler and Wilson. I don't think I've ever shown a Wheeler and Wilson sewing machine on this channel before, but I've got some in our personal collection. So I've got to pull one of those out eventually and show you that machine, along with Grover and Baker. Some of these names you're saying, what? I've never heard these names before. But these are all machine makers that tie in some way back to the New Home Sewing Machine Company. And New Home really gained its popularity around 1878. The company was successful in selling about 48,000 machines at that time. Around 1879, they had sold about 55,000 machines. And by 1880, they were making about 400 sewing machines a day. So they really ramped it up considerably. But again, This is well before Janome, that has bragging rights about building this 444 that Mitzi sewed on and that Julie will be sewing on, and made all kinds of matching outfits. You'll read that summary that Julie shared on Facebook. This was a family machine. But well before Janome got its mitts on New Home and started building machines and branding them still New Home, this machine maker, the New Home, that had its roots as the Gold Medal Sewing Machine Company, it started slow, and then it started ramping up and was making about 400 plus machines a day. So a proud legacy, just like this machine has a proud legacy with Julie's family. And can only imagine how many matching outfits were made on this machine that Julie and her sister, paraded around at school and other things like that. Her sister's name, I'm looking for it, Gina, and then her brother, Jim. Julie joked in her Facebook post, Jim didn't do much with the machine. He was probably out roughhousing, climbing trees, or who knows what Jim was doing. But Gina and Julie have a very, very fond memory of seeing their mom, Mitzi, sewing on this machine as they were growing up and making all those matching outfits. I'm thinking of the movie that Susie and I watched recently, A Christmas Story, where the whole tale of the story is you can shoot your eye out with a Red Ryder BB gun. And this little boy in the story, you might remember, has, I believe it's an aunt that always is making outfits for him and makes this horrendous pink rabbit outfit that his mom mandates, doggone it, you need to put it on. And he comes down the stairs with just utter shame and embarrassment on his face as he's wearing this outfit. And his mom thinks it's majestic. His mom is like, oh, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And he's like, can I take it off now, please? So I don't know what kind of outfits Mitzi made, probably outfits that the two girls were proud of, not embarrassed by. But you can only imagine some folks that sew for the family, some of those things end up in a cedar chest, never to be seen again. Never to be seen again. So at any rate, all right, let me move forward with this a little bit. And I'll talk a little bit about Janome. I won't talk a lot about Janome, but I'll share with you again that they came on the scene really, really late for sewing machine manufacturers. They didn't show up until 1921. And again, the roots of New Home with the Gold Medal Sewing Machine Company and everything else go all the way back to the 1800s, a short time after Isaac Singer established his company in 1851. So Janome comes on the scene in 1921, and they're founded as, does anyone know what they were founded as? A lot of the Asian, Japanese type companies would come up with American sounding names, because a lot of these companies would eventually face a lot of controversy after World War II, when we had that fight with Japan, and it ended with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with the A-bomb being invented by the U.S. So if anyone knows the name of the company that they branded themselves as, they didn't come out of the closet as Janome until much later. They were using a different name. Does anyone know what that name is? Type it in the live chat if you do. Type it in the live chat. I'm really going to make you guys work today. I'm going to make you work. All right, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. No, I didn't know that. Jenny, one of our leadership team members, shared that film, A Christmas Story, was filmed in her neck of the woods out in Ohio. I did not know that. I did not know that. Very cool. Green velvet Christmas dresses she made. That sounds really pretty, especially if it has the little bows on it. Julie's describing the matching outfits that Mitzi made, that her mom made, and she said they were green velvet. I can only imagine that her mom would have put red bows or red ribbons or some sort of red with that green. Those are really the two colors that, to me, right away say Christmas. Don't they say the same thing to you? Green and red, right? So I imagine there was probably red somewhere, maybe a collar, maybe the sleeves. I have no idea, but I imagine that there might have been red on those green velvet dresses that Mitzi made for the two girls. Maybe. So, okay, so Janome comes on the scene 1921, really late to the party. It wasn't until 1935, over a decade later, that they finally came up with the name Janome. Prior to that, write it down because it's going to be on your midterm test. Prior to Janome, they were operating under the name of none other than Pine Sewing Machine Company. P-I-N-E. Pine Sewing Machine Company. I don't know how they came up with Pine Sewing Machine Company, but maybe they thought pine sounds American. Pine sounds like it might be from the U.S. Yeah, why not? Let's call ourselves the Pine Sewing Machine Company. Well, they tired of that, and in 1935 they came up with the Janome trademark of, yeah, and all of you pretty much know by now how they came up with it. I talked about this. They were in a board meeting, and they were holding something similar to this. Yeah, something similar to this. And they were inspired to come up with a different name other than the Pine Sewing Machine Company. You guys remember the story of this, right? How they came up with it? Yeah, Eye of the Snake. Eye of the Snake. And Julie shared with me in our conversation yesterday over the phone that apparently this is the year of the snake. I think that's it's kind of a Chinese zodiac thing. But if Julie wants to share a little bit more about that, she found it was very interesting the timing of showing Mitzi's machine and talking about the roots of the Janome Company, Eye of the Snake, and how it ties into the year of the snake, apparently. So all of that stuff, it all comes together for a reason, doesn't it? I'm not a big believer in zodiac and all that stuff, sort of thing, the Asian culture thing. I love the Asian culture. I love the machines that they made, but it all comes together for a reason and a certain season and a certain time, right? Yeah, it does. It does indeed. Yeah. Pinecrest. I don't know. I don't know if it's related to Pinecrest or not. That's a question from our friend from the Bronx out in New York. But really, the Japanese people, just because of wanting to be accepted, I've talked about this on the channel before. They were fearful about trying to get their machines into the marketplace, particularly after we got into the conflict in the 1940s with them. And a lot of them were late to the game as well, and they were trying to import machines after World War II ended. There was a lot of hostility towards the Japanese people because of the war that we had just ended. So leading up to that, still wanting to be able to get into the marketplace and sell their machines here, it was a process of really coming up with something that would make them more acceptable, make them, create less friction, create less opposition to them in the marketplace as they were trying to build a business in America. And that was particularly true after World War II ended. So are there other routes beyond that? Maybe. I would say look into it and let us know what you find out. There's always a story behind a story behind a story when it comes to sewing machine manufacturers. Yeah, you can look back in the 1800s and early 1900s, and the story then was legal battles on every front. Legal battles on every front, as one sewing machine manufacturer was saying, no, 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 no. We came up with that idea first. Another one is saying, no way, Jose. That's ours. That's ours. And they went to court over it time and time and time again over rights to certain things relating to the sewing machine innovations that were coming on the scene. So, yeah, there's always a story behind another story. And now we know the story of the Christmas story ties to Jenny out in Ohio. I had no idea. No idea at all. All right. I'm going to real quick get a sip of Diet. What do I have today? Diet Coke. I've got Diet Coke today instead of my usual tea because we have a lot of viruses going around the country right now, not just in the mountains of Kentucky, but a lot of colds going around. Some of you in the live stream right now might be battling the end of a cold or might be starting a cold. So our thoughts with you in maintaining health. And all I can say is zinc, zinc, zinc. Go to your local retailer and buy a bottle of zinc and take, if you're already sick, take 2 a day. If you're starting to feel sick, take 2 a day. If you're not sick, take 2 a day. And it will give you the edge in boosting your immune system. So if you've never taken zinc in your life and you're starting to feel the sniffles or the coughs or the moans or the body aches or whatever you got going on, take zinc. It'll make a big difference for you. This guy right here takes zinc every day. And look at how healthy he looks. Yeah, he's really healthy. And it's all because of zinc. Yeah. So stick with that zinc and you'll stay healthy. You'll stay wealthy in the new year and you'll stay wise or something like that. Yeah, something like that. All right. Let me put on a little bit more Asian music, a little bit more Japanese music. Now we know. And if you look at the progress shots that I sent to Julie, you'll see inside of this new home model 444, Janome has stamped its branding mark everywhere. You'll see a lot of Janome inside of your new home as well. If you've got one from the 1950s forward. All right, I'm going to put a pause. I'm going to put a pause on our Japanese music real quick, and I'm going to give you a quick little mini class in the oscillating hook system. And anyone that wants to share their knowledge of the difference between a rotary hook system, which is very common, especially in contemporary machines, you're not going to very often see an oscillating hook in a more contemporary machine unless it's in the light industrial realm. A lot of the light industrials out there and some of the commercial machines will use the oscillating hook because it is able to tolerate a wide span of different threads, including some of the Kevlar threads and the fire retardant threads that are used a lot in the commercial sewing industry. So if anyone wants to type briefly in the live chat, share your knowledge of what the heck is an oscillating hook and how is it different from a rotary hook. You'll get extra points from the wizard during this class. But I'll show you, first of all, an oscillating hook is going to look something like this. It's going to have the hook assembly with the Raceway, it's going to have a fixed mount coming off of the low drive shaft, and then this is going to slide into place, and it's going to rotate like a pendulum back and forth in the sewing process. It's not going to make a full revolution like a rotary hook. It's going to oscillate back and forth like this, and it does need maintenance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the maintenance on the oscillating hook today. I'm going to rotate the camera down a little bit. This is going to be the retaining plate that you have to take out. There's going to be two little snaps, one on each side of this, that hold this in place. And then behind here is going to be the hook itself, like that, kind of like that. So you'll take this plate off, you'll rotate that little retainer off here, retainer off there. You'll take this off first, and then you'll have this piece in your little mitts. And for this, I'm going to show you a couple of maintenance things that you'll want to do to it to keep it running well and to keep it running strong. So the first thing to tell you is don't make the mistake that a friend of ours did a number of years ago. I believe that they were from South Carolina, and they decided that they wanted to take their hook system apart on their oscillating hook machine. It may have been a similar machine to this one. I believe it was a white sewing machine, which was also made in Japan. It was not a New Home branded machine. But they took this out and they were examining it, and they touched the end of this and they thought, oh, ouch, that's really, really sharp. That thing shouldn't be sharp. It's going to cause damage to my machine. It's going to cause issues. I might get hurt on it. And so they decided to take sandpaper and they filed this down. Never, ever file down this particular hook on an oscillating hook assembly, because it's going to render your machine useless. This point has to be ultra sharp, because when it swings around, it has to grab that thread in the sewing process when it's oscillating back and forth. So we're going to make that point actually sharper than it was before. And we're going to use a sanding disc like this very carefully on the edge. You can see our point is coming right to here. I'm going to very gently come down the edge of that like this and make it actually a little bit sharper than it was to begin with. And I'm not applying a lot of pressure. It's a very light, delicate process. Going the full length of that point. And the grit of this particular sanding disc is going to be right around 800 grit. It's going to be right around 800 grit. So it's not ultra rough. It's kind of in the middle of the range. And whenever you start, it's just like sharpening a pocket knife. Whenever you start with a rougher grit, and then you go to a finer grit. So I'm going to go from 800 all the way down to all the way up to about 1,000, I should say, with this little block right here. And I'm going to go over the same point. Real light touch, real light touch. Then after that, so that if there's any barbs on there, I'm going to use this brass brush. And I'm just going to brush over that very gently. Brass, as you know, is a softer metal. So we've gone from a higher grit to a lower grit, and now we're going to a real soft brush to go over the end of that hook. Get any loose pieces off that we might have created. And then last but not least, we're going to use a Dremel tool with a wire brush to polish it a little bit. Now, apart from that maintenance, as I've shown you in other live stream videos, you'll always want to clean that hook assembly using, first of all, rubbing alcohol to remove any of the grease and oil or gook that's stuck to it. So I'm going to grab some Q-tip swabs. I'm going to grab a little bit of rubbing alcohol and kind of dampen the tips of those a little bit. We're going to swab the inside and outside of that oscillating hook and also the mounting plate as well, and get that all cleaned up. And we would do the same thing on the inside of the hook assembly as well. So you just take your Q-tip swab, swab the inside of that, get any of the gook or grime that's caught in there. Because again, this is your brain center, right? This is your brain center for creating that stitch. And unless you get all the junk off, and look at how shiny this looks. Doesn't it look beautiful? But look at what we just got off of it with a couple of swabs. It gives you an idea of how much filth builds up on your sewing machines, especially in your hook assembly, because as that motor is running, it's pushing all that dirt around the machine, right? Pushing all that dirt around. So we swab that. We swab the post that the bobbin's going to go on. We swab the outside. I'm going to switch to the other side now because the other Q-tip swab is already filthy. Now you can see these other parts of the hook assembly here. These are also designed to grab the thread, but you don't want to sharpen those. Only the main hook right here. This gets sharpened. You leave these alone. Just clean them. Clean around here as well. Every part of the hook that you can reach, you swab it. Now, with little effort, look at what we got off of there. Does that make a difference in how your machine sews? You bet it does, big time. We'll do the same thing with our retaining plate as well, because that's going to be right in proximity to our hook. We don't want to put something clean against something dirty. That would be like changing the oil in your car and not changing the oil filter, right? Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Susie and I, as we came together in Minnesota, I started looking at her machine a little bit, her driving machine, and we ultimately discovered that the dealership in Minnesota had changed the oil in her car probably once or twice. It didn't have a lot of miles. It only had about 9,000 miles on it, but they never changed the oil filter. Shame, 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 Toyota. Yeah, and you know why they didn't change it? Because when they built that Toyota model at the factory, they made it encased in a cover that you needed a special tool to remove the cover cap to get to the oil filter. And it was too much trouble for the dealership, kind of like a lot of the sewing centers, the sewing vacs. It's too much trouble to go deep into the machine because it takes too much time, so they don't do it. And then all that dirt and all that filth stays inside of the machine, and it never reaches greatness. It never reaches greatness. It never sews at the level that it could otherwise. And that's why at the workshop, we take our time, we slow down, and we do it right. And that's why we get machines from all around the U.S. and all around the world, because we do things differently here. Now, this is our plate as well, shiny and pretty, but I think you're going to see all that dirt appear on this clean Q-tip swab with just a few swipes on it. Look at that. And it just gives you an idea of how filthy your sewing machine might be. And that's why I always encourage you to go a little bit deeper into that machine and get it right. So when you put that hook assembly back together and you put it back inside of your machine, all of a sudden the stitch quality, the quality of stitching, the issues you have with maybe jams and other things like that will go away. And you're going to be able to enjoy that machine at a new level in a new way for the first time. So I'm going to set these hook assemblies to the side. I hope any of you that have a sewing machine with an oscillating hook system, hopefully you find those little tips I just gave you helpful, and you're going to be able to put them to use on your machine and be able to enjoy that machine at a new level, with a new level of greatness. I'll show you a couple other things real quick. Now, if you don't know it, we talk a lot about the Japanese machines that were made over in Japan. And this particular machine that belonged to Mitzi and now belongs to Julie has something in it called a Class 15 bobbin. Let me see if I can find a Class 15 bobbin, and I'll show you what it looks like. When you want a Class 15 bobbin, you can't find one. I know I've got one somewhere here. Let me grab the one that I have on display. I'll just go with this one. I was going to grab a second one. So this is a Class 15 bobbin. This is probably the most common one that you're going to see in a lot of the Japanese style machines. It's going to have all those holes in it, and it's going to have a little groove on it right there to match up with the machine where it has to mount. On some of the Japanese machines, instead of mounting on the top like Julie's machine, it mounts sideways like this, and then you have to slide it into that groove. But they also make these aftermarket as well. This is an original Class 15. And so knowing the dimensions, I think, is a helpful thing. So if you get an aftermarket one, you can compare it to yours and find out whether or not it is going to be a match for your machine. So we'll measure it, first of all, like this. I call that kind of the width. And let me see if I can see it in the shot. It's going to be right around 15 millimeters. Then we're going to measure the height of it like this. I'm going to slide it in there. And it's going to be right around, let's see, 24, 25, 26 millimeters. So 26 millimeters high. And it's going to be right around 14 millimeters in width, kind of like from here to here. Also, the mounting point of the eye is important. So you know it's going to fit on your machine. You can wind it. And it's going to be right around, let's see, 8, 9. I should have put my other glasses on. 8, 9. Right around 10 millimeters. The opening of the eye of the snake. The eye of the snake should be right around 9. Just double check. 8, 9, right around 10 millimeters. So the eye of the snake should be right around 10 millimeters. And if anyone wants to note those measurements, type them in the live chat. Go ahead and do that. The other thing I'll tell you is that they make different bobbins as well for these. They're going to have different open sizes on the top. Some of them are going to be designed for straight stitch machines, and some of them are going to be designed for a zigzag machine. But notice the difference as far as the width on these two bobbins for that needle to make its clearance through there. See if you can see it better like that. Now, if you put a bobbin case like this on Mitzi's machine, on Julie's machine, the model 444, you're going to break a lot of needles because the opening isn't wide enough on this bobbin case, even though from the front they look virtually identical. The opening on top is critical because as you go to that wider zigzag, you're going to need this opening, this space to allow that needle to pass through. Otherwise, it's going to hit the bobbin case on here, and you're going to be breaking needles and damaging your throat plate and everything else. So look for that when you buy that. The other thing you want to look for is that these bobbin cases in Japan were designed for machines with different raceway configurations. These two are designed for a 1 o'clock position, as I refer to it. If you think about this like a clock, that's going to be the 12 o'clock position. When you snap it into the machine, this little finger is going to be pointing right about at 1 o'clock. There's other ones that are designed with the finger angled the other way, pointing at the 11 o'clock. So imagine that this is canted that way, and it's pointing at 11 o'clock. If your machine is set up for a 1 o'clock configuration and you buy a aftermarket bobbin, or maybe you buy an original bobbin case with that 11 o'clock, you're not going to be able to fit it into your machine. So realize that the Class 15 designs, the cases themselves, the bobbin cases, have different openings on top that have to relate to the clearance of your machine with that needle being able to pass through. And they also have different finger designs, one pointing at the 11 o'clock. There's another one that points, one pointing at the 11 o'clock, another one that points at the 1 o'clock. So you have to make sure you get the correct bobbin case for your machine. They also have aftermarket bobbins. Some of them are pretty good, like this one right here. This is an aftermarket bobbin for a class 15 machine. It fits in the bobbin case nicely. See that? But the thing you don't realize, it's going to have a little bit of a jiggle to it because the height of this one and the width of this one are 0.5 millimeters too small. So when they engineered this bobbin at the factory, they made it 0.5 millimeters too short, and they made it 0.5 millimeters too skinny. It's not wide enough. So when it goes into the bobbin case, it slides in beautifully, but when it's spinning in there and it's turning in the sewing process, it's going to be jiggling almost like the Raceway and Candido's and Rachel's Swedish Beauty by design, so it's jam-free. But instead of this being jam-free, because of that little gap and that little wiggle it's going to have going up and down inside and, from front to back and everything, it's going to create jams and thread's going to get jammed in there and create a lot of headaches for you. So just because a bobbin will go into your bobbin case doesn't mean that it's going to operate well in your sewing machine. Always check the measurements using a mechanical caliper, and you'll be able to tell right away the difference between these two bobbins. And you won't be able to see it with your eye necessarily, but when you measure it, you'll see all of a sudden that this one is 0.5 millimeters taller and 0.5 millimeters wider. This one was configured and made wrong so that it doesn't fit in that bobbin case without getting that jiggle wiggle thing going on. And then all of a sudden you're going to have issues with thread feed when that machine is operating. So if you don't have one of these mechanical calipers, you'll want to get one. And I'll give you opportunities, maybe even during this live stream, to win one of these. And then Susie and I will ship it to you no matter where you're at. I don't care if you're in Japan. We will ship it to you in Japan. And yes, Cow Country over the years has actually shipped a sewing machine to Japan to an Air Force service member that brought their custom car over to Japan and wanted to reupholster that machine, but didn't have the right sewing machine to do it with. So we've had the opportunity, we've been blessed to be able to ship machines to Japan, to Australia, to Germany, to Switzerland, all over the place. And I'm hoping in this new year that we'll have somebody reach out and say, I'm in South Africa. And I want a machine that will do this. Can you help me? Yeah, we can. Absolutely. I would love to ship to South Africa or ship somewhere else that we haven't shipped before. That would be a lot of fun. All right. So hopefully those tips help you on your Japanese or your machine that has an oscillating hook system. Blah. Oh boy, I'm about tuckered out. The other thing I'll tell you real quick is this model 444 came with this belt. This belt is too long for the way that this 444 has to be set up. There's only one adjustable point on the pillar, the right side of the pillar, to tighten the belt up. And even at its furthest point, it had a little bit of a wiggle to it, and it was slipping on the output pulley on the motor. So I replaced it with another belt and also a belt that would fit the groove on the balance wheel better. You want to pick a belt for your machine that's going to fill that whole groove on the balance wheel. It's just like a car tire in winter. The more of that tire that's touching the surface of the road, the better traction, the better grip you're going to have, right? You want more of that tire touching the road, and then you've got better traction. The same thing is true for the belt in that groove on the balance wheel, and also the part of the belt that's fitting in the groove on that output pulley on the motor. It's got to fit in there and fill it out all the way so you've got the best traction possible. So I'm going to send this belt back to Julie when the machine is returned, and she can use it for something else, or she might tell me, just keep it. Just keep the belt and use it on another machine. I can do that as well. It's a great belt, but it's the wrong belt for this model. It was creating a lot of slipping on that motor, and that great Japanese motor that's in this machine was not being able to strut its stuff. It was slipping, it was sliding, it was grooving. Great if you have music playing, but horrible if you're trying to get drive down to that needle. So check your belts. Make sure that the belt is right for your machine. See how it fills that groove on the balance wheel. See how it fills that groove coming off of the output pulley on the motor. Make sure that it's not too loosey-goosey. It should be snug, but it shouldn't be ridiculously tight, because then you're going to create drag on your motor and you're going to steal that power away. It's never going to make it down to the needle. The key with a belt, if I can do it like this, the key with a belt is when you put your finger on there with some force, you should be able to push it out about 2 millimeters, kind of like that. Got to get wider hands, about 2 millimeters. If you have more flex than that, like on Julie's machine, it was kind of like this, that's definitely wrong. It should be about a 2 millimeter flex, and that's going to allow that motor to engage, because when the motor engages, if you didn't know it, when the motor engages on most motors, that pulley is going to actually push out a little bit and tighten that belt naturally. So you don't want it so tight that it's going to create drag on the motor. You'll give it about a 2 millimeter flux like that. And then when that motor engages, it's going to snug that belt up and drive that power down to the needle beautifully. Okay. All right. I think that's about all I wanted to cover on maintenance tips. The other thing I'll tell you is I'm going to be a little bit challenged today. Julie's machine, when I went through the wiring and everything was set up again, she wanted it set up to go back in the table that she had that was refurbished to put her mom's machine back into. So right now, this is set up with a very short cord for a knee controller. This is rotated out like this. And then when it's mounted in the machine, you can kind of push it with your knee. I've got to be real careful because I have an open bottom. This is electrically charged right now. I've got to hold it like this. If I touch the bottom, I can get a shock. And that's another good tip for any of you that have knee control models in a table or otherwise. Never touch the back of this when the machine is plugged in. I'll show you right now if I can reach my voltage detector without pulling the whole wall down. Hold on a second. So this is the bottom of this knee controller right here. If I turn on my voltage detector, no electricity right now, right? Supposedly, till you get right to there. So that electricity is charged through here, this first tier of the foot controller, of the knee controller right here, and it doesn't spread through here fully until you depress the foot controller, which I'm not going to do right now because I've got the machine threaded. So always be careful when you're handling a foot controller or a knee controller and that machine is plugged in. This is going to have the same voltage that the machine does. This is actually the gateway. This is actually the gateway for the machine anyway. So the electricity flows through here and then it passes into the machine. So, you know, when it comes to foot controllers, the foot controller has to have enough amperage tolerance to support the fullness of that motor. This is a real good setup right here, but just be careful that you don't get shocked, okay? But I'm going to have a real short cord to work with today, so I'll have to adapt a little bit as I'm trying to push the the knee controller on the workbench and be able to operate it up here versus operating it on the floor or otherwise. All right, a lot of blah blah blah. Let me put on a little bit more music for you, and then we'll finally jump into the sew-offs on this model 444. Okay. All right, I'm going to come over here. All right. We've been running. How long have we been running already? I'm trying to watch my time a little bit. We've been running almost an hour already. We've been running almost an hour already. See if I can get some music on. Hold on. Too many buttons to push. Too many buttons to push. Okay. I think I almost have it. Susie always says that she's amazed at my ability to multitask during a live stream. It really requires a lot of multitasking. It truly does. All right. I think I'm close to the finish line here. All right. Oh, I have a text too. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. This is a text from Susie letting me know that Julie is in the live stream. Perfect. All right. Here we go. Okay, if some of you did not get to Facebook to look at the note that Julie had posted, I'm going to take a moment and just read it to you real quick. And I'm actually reading it from the Facebook page. It says, thank you, Scott, for featuring your restoration of my mom's sewing machine. This is the machine I remember as a child and teenager her working at to make matching clothes for my sister Gina Hartlub and me, or the three of us, and also on which she taught us to sew. Our brother Jim Cox, not so much, I think. She should have put an LOL there because sometimes boys are interested in sewing and sometimes they aren't, right? Later in life, she became a skilled and prolific quilter. Her name is Cleone, and she often went by her well-suited nickname, Mitzi. She passed away in May, and I know she is very happy about both the new condition of her machine and you presenting it for others to appreciate. Mitzi Evenstad. What a beautiful note, and really talking from a daughter's heart about the living legacy that her mom gave her and her sister, and maybe even her brother, an appreciation for the creative things, the beautiful things, like those velvet dresses that Julie was talking about that her mom had made. Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that we remember. Those are the things that are significant as we recall the life and the legacy of that individual that we miss, but they live on through a fabulous machine like this Model 444. So I feel truly honored that Julie has entrusted this treasure of a machine to me and to the workshop. And I'll eventually, in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll be able to get this machine back to her, and she'll be able to start the new year with a resolution of, I'm going to create some beautiful things that will make my mom smile from heaven. I'm going to create some beautiful things and maybe some matching things that I can gift to people that are in my life, maybe nieces or nephews or others that will be able to celebrate Mitzi as a life that hasn't ended in May, but a life that continues to live on, and the greatness of that life through the greatness of this renewed, the greatness of that life through the greatness of this renewed machine. That's really what we're looking for, isn't it? That's really what makes a difference. All right, so let's start some sewing on this machine, and I'm going to have to make some room for the camera. I'm going to have to make some room for the camera so I can actually fit the camera over by the machine. Let's see if I can move this. All right, so let's see here, Facebook. There we go, live streaming. There we go. I got the right screen now. Okay, I got the right screen. And I'm going to decide whether or not the light should be on. I did change the bulb in this machine as well. I did not have an LED, but I put a real nice incandescent bulb in there. It's really doing a good job of lighting up the bed, but it's also creating some reflections as well. So I may end up switching that out. Let's see. Oh, I should talk about this leather a little bit. This is called hardened leather. It's used for boot making. It's used for other applications where the leather's got to have a great deal of rigidity to it. So you can see right here, it's not going to bend easily. The piercing threshold on this is very high. It's probably, I would say conservatively, it's probably about 8. Well, it's probably, let me actually measure it. I'll find my caliper around here somewhere. I just had it. They oftentimes talk about the ounces of leather, but I remember that a couple of times people said it'd be nice to know how thick it is. So the thickness of this leather that we're going to be sewing is right around 4. Turn it like this. There we go. So it's going to be right around 4 to 5 millimeters thick. And I would estimate that it probably to be around 8 ounces of leather. 8 ounces of leather. And a tip as far as sewing leather like this on an oscillating hook, I preach to you all the time. I preach all the time about starting your stitch with the take-up arm at the highest position. I say it all the time. Make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position. Make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position before you launch, and you're going to get the best result. When you're dealing with an oscillating hook system, that's not always true, especially with a heavy sew-off like this. It's sometimes better to start with a needle down, because the way the oscillating hook system works is when it pulls that hook back, it's actually got more force than when it pushes it down, because it's pulling that needle back up with the mechanics of the machine. So starting in the down position, if you're sewing super heavy duty on an oscillating hook system, will sometimes give you a much better result than starting at the highest position, trying to drive through that material. And I can demonstrate that for you with a launch on here. I don't know if all of a sudden I'll become fortunate and it will go through easily. Let me get a little bit closer to the camera. There we go. So I'm going to try launching with the highest position first, and then we'll go into this at the lowest position, and we'll see if there's a difference. Okay, so I'm going to reach over to my knee controller over here, and I'm going to push down. I'll try to get us launched through this. We'll see if we can do it successfully. And that went a lot smoother than I expected. On some of the leathers we sewed today, I think you'll see what I mean, where we're going to run into issues with that not going through that leather. I think I was thinking of the Italian commercial leather that I've got that we're going to be sewing on as well. So that's our first sew off right there on this hardened leather that's used for boot making and other applications like that. We'll kind of take a look at the stitching. We start way over here. There we go. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching going through this hardened leather. And I didn't talk about my setup. I should probably do that. We'll look at this top stitching first. That's a long piece of leather. Go like this as well. That is brag-worthy stitching, folks. Brag-worthy stitching. And Mitzi's, now Julie's Model 444 made it look really, really easy. I created a little bit of drama. About the oscillating hook system and how a low launch will sometimes do better. It didn't prove true on this hardened leather. Mitzi's machine, look at that from the side. About 8 to 10 ounces of leather, 4 millimeters thick. And Mitzi's machine just went through it like a banshee. No problem at all. Here's our lock stitching on the back. Some beautiful lock stitching as well. And I'll tell you a little tip on leather needles, which is what we have in the machine today. Some of you may not realize it, but sometimes the Texas, we have so many people in our cow country family from Texas, a lot of people in Texas. And one of their sayings is go big or go home, right? Go big or go home. Well, you've got to match the needle to the thread. And I'm using our favored Coates & Clark dual duty XP thread. Most of you know what I'm talking about right away because we use it all the time. And this dual duty thread is probably going to be only about a 30 weight thread. It's not a super heavy thread. It's quite a bit lighter than some of the other threads that you can get out there. So when you match a thread like this to the needle, it's going to match real well with our standby universal needle, our size 90-14. No problem at all. It works beautifully with that. It's going to match also well with this size 116, size 16 leather needle by Schmetz. If you didn't know that Schmetz made leather needles, they do. They make the finest ones in the world. And that's why they brand it both in English and German, leather needle or Ledernadel. Ledernadel is leather needle in German. So Ledernadel is leather needle in German. You'll see it branded both ways. It's going to be a perfect needle for this type of thread. But I had started bigger than this because what I was leading up to is, you may not realize it, but recently we celebrated the anniversary birthday of our dear friend, Sunny. You guys remember Sunny? I could find a picture of her on my phone, I'm sure. And you right away, oh, yeah, I remember her. But better yet, let me encourage you over this weekend, pause your life for a second, go to the playlist of VIP interviews, and you're going to get a chance to spend about an hour getting to know and fall in love and appreciate this wonderful lady that passed away probably about 3 years ago. She passed away from cancer. She had been battling it for a long time, and eventually the cancer got the better of her. She was a retired nurse, and one of her favorite sayings was, whenever I would present a sewing machine with 100 size needle or bigger, she would say, "Scott's sewing with a harpoon needle." Scott's sewing with a harpoon needle. So I started with a size 110 leather needle by Schmetz, but it was too big to use this thread. it was creating a little cockeyed stitch on the lock stitch on the bottom. It just didn't look right. And so I had to downsize this to a size 100. But let me encourage you, take a little bit of time this weekend, go to the VIP interviews on this YouTube channel and get to know Sunny. You'll just fall in love with her. She was such a sweetheart, and her legacy lives on through just the kindness and the sweetness that she brought to all the live streams that she was a part of. So we're sewing with a harpoon needle today, and I'm hoping that in heaven, Sunny is looking down and grinning from ear to ear saying, Scott remembered. Scott remembered me. Yeah, I did. I did indeed. So a beautiful sew off using a harpoon needle on this hardened leather. We're going to use another piece of hardened leather now to sew a zigzag stitch down this leather as well. So let me see if I can get this in place, and we'll see if we can go down on a zigzag next. So on Mitzi's machine, now Julie's machine, the first thing I have to make sure I've got right is the presser foot pressure. This is our presser foot pressure right here on this model 444. If you take the outer ring like this, take the outer ring and you push on it, this pops all the way up, telling you that right now you've got 0 presser foot pressure. Now that might be good if you're doing free motion quilting or freehand embroidery and you're still using the presser foot, which most people wouldn't be. They'd be using a jump foot or something like that. But if you're still using the presser foot, this would be ideal with no presser foot pressure. But we don't want that when we're sewing leather, right? We want to have a good solid push down by that presser foot so it pushes that material into the feed dogs and we get nice even feed. So we've got to push it down in increments until we get it to the desired presser foot pressure level. For our leather sewing, I'm going to be going all the way down pretty much, right about to there. And you can see we're almost all the way down to the max. We've got just a little bit more that we could go, but that should hopefully be enough to give us good presser foot pressure. Then we're going to be coming over here to our stitch width. Make sure our needle is out of the material. And we're going to be pushing it from 0, which is for straight stitching, all the way over to 5 to give us the widest zigzag that we can get on Julie's mom's machine. So we're set on 5. We're going to stay with a middle needle position right now. This is going to be if we want to try to lock that in place. It doesn't work that well. Janome put it on there, but it's really more for show than anything else. And then we go over to our stitch length over here, and we can see that we're on the maximum on 4 right now, which is where I want to be. So we've got the longest stitch, we've got the widest stitch, and that's good. The other trick I'll tell you about real quick on this stitch length control is it's also going to give you the option. I'm going to get down on the ground. It's going to give you the option if you move it all the way counterclockwise. If I keep going like this, I'm going to get all the way down to 0. If I go further than that, it's going to give me the option to drop the feed dogs. Now, I don't know of too many machines that are set up like this. It's kind of tricky, and people might not even know that it's there. So I'm letting you all know, look on your white, look on your new home, look on your Japanese machine. And if you can't find a feed dog drop, look at your stitch length control, because if you turn it all the way into the red zone down here, your feed dogs are now down. See how it's down there at the 6 o'clock position? Right now, if I try to sew this leather, that leather, as they would say in Texas, that leather ain't going nowhere. So I've got to rotate this back up so those feed dogs pop back up and I can move that material. And we're going to go again to the longest length right over here. But that's your feed dog drop right down here. You got to turn it counterclockwise, turn it all the way to that really funky little symbol. And then you'll be able to do free motion quilting, freehand embroidery, etc. Okay? All right, I'm going to stand back up. That concrete's kind of hard. Kind of stood on the concrete down there, and it's like, ah. All right, let me get this back set up over here. And now we're going to try to sew a zigzag down this hardened leather as well. And I'm going to launch from the highest position again, see if we have success. Then that's great. And hopefully our feed dog's engaged again. Otherwise, we're going to be spinning our wheels. All right, here we go. A zigzag, the widest one we can do on Julie's model 444. And let's see how we do with this one. I'm not going to change the upper tension. Hopefully our upper tension and our bobbin case are getting along, and we've got some great, great stitch quality. All right, you ready? Here we go. This machine is really kind of showing its stuff, isn't it? I was building a big dramatic story about maybe it won't be able to get through this hardened leather. And it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm guessing, and I never met Mitzi, but I'm guessing that Mitzi had a lot of spunk. And the name kind of suggests it, doesn't it? She was a go-getter. She was a take charge girl. I bet she was. I bet she is. All right, let me show the zigzag to you on this hardened leather. Again, we're sewing through a material here that's about 4 millimeters thick. Oh, there we go. It's about 4 millimeters thick, and it's probably about 8 to 10 ounces of leather. And it's not soft leather, it's hard leather, very, very hard leather. Let's take a look at this zigzag. And again, this is the biggest zigzag that this machine will do. And look at that beautiful hole that leather needle makes. Again, we're sewing with a size 116, size 16 leather needle by Schmetz. And it just slices through there beautifully, doesn't it? Does a beautiful job. I'll tell you, I think that's like a textbook perfect zigzag, don't you? That's like a textbook perfect zigzag. And again, look at the thickness. Look at the thickness of what we just went through with no effort. This is what they make boots out of and other things that have to be real rigid stuff. Probably some of the horse, what do they call those things that go over the legs of people on horses? Spats? No, that's not right. You guys know what I mean. I bet you Julie knows, because Julie Julie has dealt with horses a lot in her life. But some of the things they make for equestrian type stuff, they would use this type of leather as well. It's going to stand up to crazy wear, and it's going to be incredibly sturdy and strong. Look at the side of that. All right, let's look at the lock stitch on the back. It looks like our upper tension is doing a real good job. You can see our lock stitching is also spot on. The lock stitching also looks really, really good. That's some crazy thick leather, y'all. That is some crazy thick leather. And this model 444 that Janome made, branded at New Home, I'll tell you one thing, she's a strong, strong machine. And now we don't have that slipping on the belt anymore either. And it's giving us the full benefit of that motor. Full benefit of that motor. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. So we've only done 2 stitch offs so far, and I think y'all probably are pretty impressed. Hardened leather, about 8 to 10 ounces, a beautiful zigzag, a beautiful straight stitch. And now we're going to move into some of the other leather sewing as well. I've got other materials to sew other than leather, but I really wanted to showcase the leather since we've got a harpoon-sized needle in honor of Sonny's recent birthday. I wanted to demonstrate a lot of leather sewing on this one. And this is some of that tough leather here. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. This is an Italian style leather. And you can see that stuff. It's just, if I do 2 layers of that, look at that. 2 layers of this Italian style leather is really, really going to push this machine to the max. It's going to make it tough.
make it real tough. And I'm going to do it probably, I'll do it facing the same way. And I bet you we still have trouble getting through it. This stuff has kind of almost like with the nap and everything, almost has kind of a woven texture to it, kind of a Kevlar texture. So it may cause issues for us getting through at a high launch. We might have to lower that needle into the material and then launch from there, but we'll give it a try. But this is what we're going to attempt. We're going to go through 2 layers of this. We'll try a straight stitch, and then we'll try a zigzag going through this Italian leather. Let's see if I can get this into place. I'll put the smaller piece on top. We'll get this underneath that presser foot, and we'll give it a go. I'm going to try a straight stitch and a zigzag, assuming I don't sew too crooked. Get that off to the side. We'll start with a straight stitch. I got to get that further underneath the presser foot. This is going to be hard to move this stuff, especially with 2 layers. All right, I think I've got it underneath there pretty good. This is going to be our straight stitch first, so I've got to move our stitch width back. Move it back from 5 down to 0. Needle is clear of the material. So now we're going to be straight stitching. We're going to do a long straight stitch. We got it all the way over there. See if we can do a long straight stitch on this Italian leather, 2 layers of it. Again, about 8 to 10 ounces of leather, I would estimate. There we go. It's a pretty good shot. The face plate of this hangs down real low, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to get a good shot with the camera. I'm doing my best. Push it back a little bit over here. All right, we're going to start with a straight stitch, and I'm going to launch from the highest position with the take-up arm right up here. We'll see if we can get through it. Otherwise, we'll do a low launch because, again, oscillating hooks sometimes do better with a low launch for a material like this. All right, so I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to hit the foot. I'm going to hit the knee controller. I'm used to saying foot controller. We'll see how we do. Okay, you see what happened? We just hit that leather, and it stopped that needle dead. It stopped that needle dead in the tracks. You kind of heard the motor kind of choke out. And that's not the motor's fault. It's because we're sewing a leather that is really, really a booger. It's really a booger material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower that needle down into the leather, and then we'll launch from there. I'm going to push it through manually. I'm turning the balance wheel right about to there. And now I'm going to give the knee controller a push, and we should be able to mow this stuff down. Here we go. So if you've got an oscillating hook system, you might want to do the same thing and try that low launch instead of the high launch, and you might get a much better result. There's the result we just got. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching. We'll look at it more closely. We'll do the zigzag first, and then we'll look at this Italian leather, 2 layers of this stuff. Certain leathers can be softer. This Italian leather is more supple than that hardened leather, but because of the composition of it, it's a more difficult sew off. It's harder to get through that piercing because the composition of that leather almost creates like a webbing. It almost creates like a webbing, and it holds that needle back from getting through. We'll see if it does the same thing on the zigzag. We're going to switch over to the zigzag now, and we'll see if we kind of stall out on that. If we do, we'll go down and we'll do a low launch on it, and we should have success on that where we won't on the high launch. Okay, camera looks like it's positioned pretty well. Off camera, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the stitch width from 0 over to 5. And I'm going to take the take-up arm all the way up. Going up, 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 up. So now, like I always teach you, we're at the highest position. We're on the downstroke. But let's see what happens with this type of leather, especially 2 layers of it. 2 layers of this Italian leather is probably going to stop that needle dead in its track, I'm guessing. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. All right, here we go. So I just pushed the knee controller. I pushed it probably a quarter of the way down. It should have been able to go. But because of this type of leather, it stopped it dead in its tracks. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it down using the balance wheel. into the material. Get it about 3/4 of the way down. And now we will engage the knee controller, and we should be able to mow down these 2 layers of Italian leather. All right, here we go. So sometimes it's just a matter of knowing the mechanics of a machine. On a rotary system, if this were a rotary hook instead of an oscillating hook, we would want to start at the highest position. But because it is a oscillating hook design, and that back swing as that needle is coming down, when you get to that lowest position, it's going to have the greatest amount of force in that downstroke when it's at the lowest position, almost coming in proximity to the scarf and the eye of the needle. Because it has more downward thrust or more force coming down, when we start at that point, we can accomplish what we otherwise would not be able to accomplish. So let's take a look at that stitching now and see how we did. 2 layers, probably about 8 to 10 ounces of Italian leather. And hopefully we had some great success. All right, we'll look at the straight stitching on top. Once I get the leather in front of the camera. There we go. Folks, that is gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. If you're doing a leather project, if you're sewing a purse or a bag or something like that, you have a top stitch that looks like that, the zigzag or the straight stitch, you're going to be able to sell that product like a hiccup. Let me go all the way down. Start over here. Come on, Scott. Hold it steady. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Very, very nice. And again, look at the thickness of what we just went through. That's a lot of leather, folks. That's probably about 10 ounces of leather. I would guess it's probably even thicker. It's thicker than that hardened leather that we did first. I bet you this is probably 5 or 6 millimeters thick. And this model 444 that Mitzi used for a lifetime and that Julie's going to be using now, it was able to get the job done very easily once we set it up, realizing what kind of hook system it has. We went with a down launch instead of the up launch, and you saw how easily it mowed through this leather and laid down just an absolute drop-dead gorgeous straight stitch and also a zigzag as well. Let's take a look at that lock stitching on the back now. It's going to be a little bit hard to see. Look at that nap. That nap is just a nightmare, isn't it? I'll see if I can pull it back a little bit to give you a better view of the zigzagging. No loopy stuff. That upper tension is doing a beautiful job. And if you look at the Facebook pictures that I posted, I don't remember what group it's in, but I show you how to tear down the upper tension on this, this new home all the way down to the bare bones. How to clean it, how to service it, how to lube it, and all that. Certain parts need to be cleaned. Certain parts need to be lubed. And it's a little bit of a trickier upper tension to do. There's our straight stitching there. It's the extra thread on the end there. Pull that. There we go. There's our straight stitching. A little bit hard to see. I kind of pull it back. You can see it kind of pop through a little bit. Once our camera decides to focus, come on, buddy. So some beautiful lock stitching on the back of this real thick and tricky Italian leather. Some gorgeous stitching on the top. Our top stitching looks beautiful. And I'm going to set this to the side as well with that other leather that we've already sewed off. All right, let me go ahead and put on a little bit more Japanese music, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into some more leather sewing. And why don't we do some denim sewing next? We'll sew on some denim also, so we have some denim underneath our belt, and then we'll do some other sewing on leather and some other leather sewing and some other. I think I have canvas as well. We'll do some canvas sewing also. All right, I'm going to pause this real quick. I think we'll do some denim sewing now. We'll do the straight and the zigzag down this. I'm debating on how many layers I want to do. This model 444, even with a leather needle setup, can do quite a bit of denim, but I want to recognize that we're using the wrong needle. We don't have a denim needle. We don't have a universal needle, but I don't want to cheat the machine either. So I'm thinking 2, 4, 6. Let me see if I can fold this for 8 layers of denim. There's 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 layers might be too thick for the presser foot even. I'll have to check that. 2, 4, 6, 8. I think that's too thick for our presser foot. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit too snug. I think we'll have to do 6. This model 444 does have a hyperextension, but it's only like a millimeter. You know, some of the Japanese ones, you can raise it considerably higher. This one will go up, probably goes up about 2 millimeters. I'll do 6 layers and just know that it can do more. It can do more than 6 layers from a strength standpoint. So 2, 4, and 6 layers. Yeah. That'll be a comfortable without having to stress the machine. So we'll get that into place. 6 layers of denim. I think that's a pretty good challenge. Let me move the camera back. Okay, so we'll do them backwards. We'll do a zigzag and then we'll do a straight stitch after that. So 6 layers of denim, not a light sew off. I think most cuffs and hems are probably going to be about 4 to 6 layers. So we're basically sewing through the edge of a cuff on a pair of pants or maybe a thick sleeve or something like that. We'll do the zigzag. And on denim, I think we should be okay in launching at the highest position. So I'm going to bring our take-up arm all the way up so it's on that downswing. And we'll stick with a super wide. I should show you my shirt before I forget. It's another one of the shirts that Susie made. Let's see if I can back up a little bit. Squat down a little bit. So I've been sending a lot of these when I pack up a sewing machine. I've been sending either a shirt or a scarf So if you have a sewing machine in the workshop and you have a preference, if you want a Cow Country vintage sewing shirt like this with a cool cow on it, Susie's got different versions of it that she made using her Cricut program. You can let me know you want a shirt to come back with your machine. I think I sent shirts with Candido and Rachel's machines, I believe. Or you can get a scarf or whatever. But I think they're super cool. And it's always fun to wear these out in public and have people say, what's that about? What's that cow about? And I can tell them about the business. See? Tell them about the business. All right, let's do a zigzag, 6 layers of denim. And then we'll do a straight stitch after that. All right, here goes a zigzag. Oh, it did kind of pause a little bit, didn't it? It kind of paused a little bit when it hit that. That's a lot of denim. I don't know how much denim sewing all of you in the audience have done, but when you get to 6 layers of denim, that's some serious stuff. And we did it with a leather needle too. That's our lock stitching on the back. There's our top stitching. We'll lay down a straight stitch and then we'll look at the stitching a little bit closer. Well, I hope everybody's having a good new year so far. And if your birthday is in the month of January, I want you, if you're in the live chat, to share that. Or if you're in the shadows, to share that. Let us know it's your birthday and honor that while I'm getting this next sew off set up. I'll put on the birthday song for you. At least I'll play part of it. It's kind of a jazzy style birthday. Ha ha! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. So if it's your birthday, happy birthday. I hope you have a great one. I know that some of the men that are in the birthday group that I meet pretty much every morning over at Hardee's in Middlesboro, Kentucky, we've got a couple of birthdays that are coming up for them. There might be another birthday from someone that's associated with Cow Country coming up on the 14th of January, but I won't tell you who that is. But that's coming up soon enough. All right, so we're going to do a straight stitch now on these 6 layers of denim. I'm going to give it a little bit more gas on this knee controller, see if we can mow through it, launching at the highest point. And then we'll move on to some other sew-offs before we wrap this up with a sewing in a circle thing. So, all right, here we go. Yeah, that went through real nicely. Leather needle is a real sharp needle. It's got that kind of a serrated edge to cut through the leather. So it does just as well in cutting through denim. I'll show you from the side kind of what we just sewed off on. It's a thick sew off. So there's our zigzag and our straight stitch. See if I can go all the way to the end. Camera will decide to focus eventually. Come on, camera, you're not off duty. Hello. There we go. Starting to focus, thinking about it. All right, so our zigzag and our straight stitch, we'll kind of go down that. Some good looking stitching. Again, as you're sewing a material like denim, this many layers, and you're using a leather needle, it's probably not the right thing to do. I'll probably get some notes from our friends at Schmetz saying, could you use the right needle for the right sew off? Could you do that, please? But we like having fun and kind of testing the the versatility. Remember, we just sewed that leather using the quilting needle. So yeah, there's no fault in having a little bit of fun. Yeah, some real good looking stitching. Lock stitching on the back, that also looks really good as well. This is our lock stitching. Yeah, good stuff. There's the thickness of what we just went through. 6 layers of denim. Look at it from this side as well. I know some people on other YouTube channels are saying, did he just sew 6 layers of heavy duty denim using a leather needle? Yep, we did. We just did it. There it is. Oh, beautiful stitching. So this machine is able to go through leather. It's able to go through denim without any trouble at all. Now let's see if we put it to the test with a little bit of U.S. Army grade canvas. This is some of our U.S. Army grade canvas. It came from a shelter half. You can see it still has the little snap ribbon on there, which we're not going to sew today. I have a lot of faith in Schmetz needles, but I'm not going to sew metal to metal. That's just foolish. Let's not do that. But I'm going to slide this into place. As a matter of fact, you know what? Now that I've shown you the snap, I think I'll cut this off just so it's not dragging across the bed of the machine. I don't want to do that. I don't want to scratch the machine. So I'm going to give it a quick little snip using our Guggenheim shears. There we go. I'll throw this snap to the side. I don't know if Susie wants it or not, but I'll put it to the side just in case she does. We'll go through 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. We'll do a straight, we'll do a zigzag. And we're set up for a straight right now, so we'll start with a straight. And again, sewing canvas with a leather needle is probably not the ideal thing to do. That's okay. We'll do it anyway, just to have a little bit of fun. So straight stitch and then a zigzag. And again, I'm kind of pushing this knee controller over here during the sew off and steering with the other hand. So if I seem a little bit awkward today, that's why. That's why. All right. Drag that back. And here's the thing, when you're changing between materials and you're using a certain type of needle, you sometimes will have tension issues. And you'll see that right away on this sew off, that our top stitching, where when we did the denim, we did the leather, our top stitching, the stitch tension balance was spot on. It looked beautiful. But when we're sewing U.S. Army grade canvas, 2 layers of it, we're using a leather needle, we're using Coats & Clark dual duty XP thread. All of a sudden, we run into a little bit of a tension hiccup. We run into a little bit of a tension hiccup where that top stitching, there we are. That top stitching has a little bit of a wave to it. It's not as defined and as pronounced as we've seen on the other sew-offs. So we have a choice. We can either go to a different needle if we're going to be sewing U.S. Army grade canvas all day long. We can ignore it, realizing that it's just a matter of the material in relation to the needle we're using. Or we can make an upper tension adjustment to see if we can remedy it. There's a number of choices. There's our lock stitching. Our lock stitching looks a lot more bang on. But here as well, we've got a little bit of a dipsy doodle thing going on. So I think we have to accept the fact, that if we're going to be sewing canvas, we would be better off with probably a universal needle than with a leather needle to maintain that stitch tension balance between the material and the needle type. See if I can bring that up to the camera. I'll give you a closer look. And we could certainly try a modest adjustment to see if we can remedy the top stitching, but I think we're still going to be battling it a little bit. We won't face that issue with the zigzag as much because the zigzag is going to have those tier touch points where it will be able to adjust that tension a little bit better between those 3 touch points when that needle comes down. Here we've got more of a balance issue with that zigzagging. And the lock stitching looks a little bit better, but here we're getting a little bit of a tipping on some of the stitches, which also indicates that the the tension is struggling a little bit with this material and the setup that we have. A little bit more of a struggle. So if we try a modest adjustment, just for sake of trying it, we can probably remedy the top stitching a little bit more, but we're still going to struggle with that lock stitching using this setup and using this needle. So I'm going to get it back into position. Right now, you can see our upper tension is set just a little bit below 7, just a little bit below 7. So if we're having some challenges and we want to try to tighten up our top stitch, which way do I turn this? Do I increase it or decrease it? Do I increase or decrease the upper tension if I want to try to at least resolve getting better definition with the top stitching? We want a nicer looking top stitch. Do I increase or do I decrease this? What do I do? Type it in the live chat if you would. Type it in the live chat. Oh, that's a fun machine back here. This will be one of the next machines. It's a local machine that'll be coming to the workbench soon. But I also have to finish this one that's going back to Montana. This is the one that I did in the paint shop. It was the back corner of it was busted off. The machine was just a mess. It's just utterly a mess. It also had gone through a fire out in Montana as well. So you can imagine what the patina looked like. And now it looks like a brand new Singer 66 Red Eye, doesn't it? It's gorgeous. But I've got to hand polish all the parts. I've got to comb down some of the paint areas so the parts will fit again. It's a big job. But this one will be a fun one to do. A dressmaker. I don't think I've shown a dressmaker on this channel for quite a while. What answer is oh, are you waiting for the tension answer? Okay, got it. So if you're waiting for the tension answer, if we're wanting to get greater emphasis on this top stitch, we know that we're dealing with a tricky material. U.S. Army grade canvas is fortified. It's a woven type material designed for field duty, extreme circumstances, weather changes, everything else. So if we want to emphasize this more, we've got to give more authority to the bobbin case down in the oscillating hook area. So if we want to give more authority to the bobbin case, we've got to take away from the upper tension. So we've got to turn this back from where it's at right now, just above 7. We've got to turn this back to about 5. See if I can do that. Okay, so I just turned it back from 7. It was just above 7 to right around to 5. Now this won't totally resolve it because we're still dealing with U.S. Army grade canvas and we're dealing with a leather needle, but you should see that it tightens it up because what we did is we took away from the upper tension, which gives back to the bobbin case pulling down. Remember, the bobbin case pulls down to give you the top stitch. The upper tension pulls up to give you the lock stitch. Our lock stitch was okay. I wouldn't say it was page 34, but our top stitch really looked kind of wonky. So I'm hoping that this subtle adjustment of backing off the upper tension from 7 to about 5 will give us a better straight stitch on this next sew off. Let's give it a go, and then we'll lay down a zigzag, which will be a lot less problematic. All right, here we go. Rotate my take-up arm was all the way down. I would have run into problems. Here we go. What a difference. Oh my goodness gravy. What a difference. Let me just pull it out while the thread is still attached. Look at that stitch. This bottom one is the one we just did. The top one is the one we did first. Let me cut it and you can take a closer look at it. Well, we brought definition back to that top stitch that was not there before. Show it to you like this. So the top row was our first sew off. The bottom row is our second. I think I got that right. Maybe I reversed them, but at any rate, come on, camera. Come on. Come on, camera. Camera's having a lot of trouble with the green fabric, I think. Daggone it. I'm going to put it down on the bed of the machine and we'll look at it that way. Apparently, when I'm holding it, the camera doesn't like it. Now, again, it's not going to be page 34. It's not going to be perfect. But look at how muddled this top row is right here when we had that upper tension set on 7. We had that top row over here. Get the camera right. It's a lot more muddled. I've got to move the sew-off material. It's in the way. Hold on a second. Here we had a muddled stitch. That top stitch was very muddled. It was very underdefined. And then as we made that adjustment, taking that upper tension down to 5 so that bobbin case could pull down more, it went from this to that down here. It's a lot more defined, a lot more pronounced. A lot more pronounced. And again, we're sewing with a leather needle. The needle isn't tired yet. I don't think it is. Might be. But it just shows you that subtle adjustment. Look at how muddled it is right there. That top row is real muddled. It's underdefined. You can barely see the stitch. Down here, it all of a sudden came to life. So if you're having issues with your top stitching, like we were here, you want to back off that upper tension so that that bobbin case can pull down harder. And you'll get a changed result, considerably changed result. Now the question is, on this lower row, if I turn it over, did we lose our lock stitch? Because when you make an adjustment to better the top stitch, you can do it far enough that it'll take away from the lock stitch, and all of a sudden then you're battling the lock stitch. So let's see if we did that. When we turn it over, it'll be that bottom row. Yeah, we did. We kind of muddled the bottom one a little bit. So maybe instead of going to 5, I should have gone to 6. But it's that constant tug of war. That's kind of what I'm trying to get you to appreciate and understand is on the forefront, we're battling the top stitch. We make an adjustment and we better the top stitch, but then we went too far and then we created a problem with the lock stitch. The lock stitch wasn't perfect here, but it was more pronounced and then we took away from it. So lesson learned, instead of going from 7 to 5, go from 7 to 6, go in small increments and see what the result is. Do that stitch off. And yeah, but it's tricky when you're sewing a wide field of materials using a specialized needle like a leather needle. You'll run into issues like this. The machine is sewing beautifully, but you create challenges for it when you have a setup that is problematic with certain material sew-off types. But hopefully you understand the concept now. What we did, we got the result we wanted, and we created another problem on the backside because we went too far. All right, so that's our lesson for today on having fun with tension. All right, let's do a zigzag now. And I'll adjust the tension back to about where it was. Laid on a zigzag on these 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm adjusting the tension back to just below 7. That's where we were before. And now we'll move our stitch width from 0 up to 5. We'll leave our stitch length the same on 4 at the maximum. All right. Yeah, you can even see from this angle the positive impact we brought to that top stitching. Comparatively, the first row we did here to the second row we did here, This is a noticeable improvement, but it's going to be a constant battle because we're sewing with a material that's woven using a leather needle. A leather needle is really designed for dealing with sewing through a material that is much more hardened, is going to be much more compact, if that makes sense. It's not woven like a wool or a canvas would be. All right, so let's lay down a zigzag now. And hopefully we don't face quite as many challenges as the straight stitch. All right, here we go. Yeah, I kind of predicted it. Again, because of the bridge points being able to level each other out a little bit, even though we're sewing canvas, because those bridge points, you have three bridge points. You've got, let me move over further. You got three bridge points on a zigzag. You've got 1, 2, and then 3. Because you've got those three bridge points, it's almost like a self-leveling where you don't generally struggle with tension as much on the top stitching in particular. You sometimes can face challenges when you're doing a real wide zigzag like this, and I've shown this to you before in other live streams. If you don't have enough upper tension, you can have loosey-goosey things going on with a zigzag on the bottom, on the lock stitch. But through canvas like this, I don't think we'll have that challenge. I hope we don't. And we'll look at both of those sides and just compare it to the recent battle we had with that straight stitch. So this is our top stitching on the zigzag. Looking really, really good. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. That's our top stitching. We turn it over, look at our lock stitching. Where we were battling the balance, we're not battling the balance because we've got those three points of contact with the material that level that stitch out. Look at that. That's our lock stitching. We don't have the same battle we did on the straight stitching. Those 3 points of contact act almost like the, if you know anything about auto mechanics, those 3 points of contact act almost like the struts working with the shocks. The struts on a car, if you don't know this, the struts on a car hold the car up. They stabilize the chassis so that it's in a fixed position. And then the shocks will push up on it a little bit. And it creates kind of a balance between the two, kind of wiggling the material to demonstrate that. The struts and the shocks work together, one pushing down, one pushing up, and creates a wonderful balance. That's kind of what we get with the zigzag compared to the struggle we have with a straight stitch when you're sewing this type of material with the type of needle that we have right now. No problem on the zigzag. The lock stitching looks spot on, and the top stitching looks spot on with the zigzag. Yeah. So now we've gone through canvas, U.S. Army grade canvas. We've gone through denim. We've gone through hardened leather. We've gone through Italian leather. And now I think we will take a swing at good old-fashioned cotton. See if we can sew some cotton now with a little bit of stiffener in there. So I've got some good old-fashioned cotton with a stiffener. We'll see if we can buzz down that, lay down a straight stitch, lay down a zigzag. And then we will move into, how long have we been running? Been running about 2 hours. I think we're going to move into, I could do this other style of leather here. I'll probably do this, but it's going to be the same leather I use for the final sew off. So maybe I'll skip that one and we will do our cotton, and then we'll jump into, I got 2 other types of leather. This is going to be a cowhide. That's going to be a cowhide. And this is going to be trying to remember the name of it. Give me a second. It's used. This is used on airplane seats. Oh, Jiminy Crickets! I'm blanking on the name of this leather. I'll think about it. Let me get a drink of Diet Coke real quick. See if that inspires me to remember what that leather is called. It's a special leather that it's treated with a chemical. It's treated with a chemical so that it prevents it from staining, and it also gives it more durability. Oh, I'm totally blanking on it. A little bit more happy birthday music. Ah, got it. I had to think about it. I took a big guzzle of Diet Coke and I thought, come on, you got to remember this stuff. It's called protected full grain leather. That's what this stuff is. It comes in different colors. They dye it different colors, but it's got a chemical treatment on it. A chemical treatment that allows you to, I mean, you can literally spill a glass of wine on this stuff. And it's almost like Scotch guarding. It prevents it from embedding into the leather and staining it. At least that's what they claim. And then it also creates a little bit of a shield, kind of a protective coating on it, so it makes that leather last longer. I mean, you can imagine on a jet airplane, especially like a private jet, you got somebody's bottom sliding over it, sliding back, sliding over it, sliding back. You get somebody's butt dragging across it back, both ways and everything like that. Regular leather can wear down pretty quick. So they come up with this protected full grain leather that gives it a greater durability. And then if one of those fancy planes, they spill wine on it, it's less likely to stain it. That's what I was trying to remember. So maybe we'll sew this protected full grain leather, and then we'll jump into the final sew off on this sewing in a circle Italian style. So yeah. All right. So let's go down and do a straight stitch on 100% cotton. And then we'll lay down a zigzag on it as well. And hopefully a Schmetz leather needle, a size 116, has no issues with sewing cotton like it does canvas. It doesn't like canvas at all. All right, let's see how we do. All right. I'm getting better controlling this knee controller with my hand, but I don't think I have it down to a science yet. Yeah, here again, I'm almost inclined to make an adjustment on our bobbin case, because again, it's showing a little bit of a weakness on that top stitching on this cotton. It's not a horrible stitch, but it's not nearly as defined as the lock stitching on the back. Look at that lock stitching compared to the top stitching. So I think that's what we'll do, is I'll show you how to take the bobbin case out. We'll make a real modest adjustment on the bobbin case, since we're sewing a wide field of materials using a harpoon style leather needle. And we'll see if we can tighten this up a little bit without making any change to the upper tension. Okay. So I'm going to set this over here to the side real quick. We're going to open up our plate, and there you can see our raceway, those little plunger things that hold this piece in, like I described to you when I was showing you the maintenance tips, that hold this in. You can see there's a point on either end here where you push those out, and then you can take this piece out, and then you can take this out as well. But thankfully, we're not having to do that right now. We're just going to pull the bobbin out, and we'll make a subtle adjustment on it. I'm going to hold my threads while we do that. There we go. So here's our class 15 bobbin case. Got to find the right screwdriver here. I'm looking for my favorite screwdriver and I'm not finding it yet. Give me a second here. Don't you hate that when you can't find your favorite screwdriver and it's like, where are you, buddy? Where are you? All right, I'm going to go with my non-favorite screwdriver. I'll go with one of my smaller screwdrivers. It'll still work nicely. Now, in this particular bobbin case, you can see that there's not specifically a set screw next to the adjusting screw. Usually there's going to be two screws. One is going to be a fixed screw that holds this tension plate on. The other one is going to be adjusting screw right there. This particular bobbin case design has one that does both because part of the flange of it tucks into this little sleeve down here and it holds that into position so it doesn't move around. It doesn't fall out. So we know we want a more defined top stitch. So we're going to take our little screwdriver. We're going to give this a small little turn clockwise, just a tiny little turn clockwise. I gave you just a small little turn. We were right about at the 9 o'clock position, and now we're at the 10 o'clock position. So hopefully I didn't turn it too far, but that'll give us a little bit more tension. It's going to push down on this band spring right here, and it's going to push down on that thread as it's coming out, and hopefully that'll tighten up our top stitch just enough that we won't have any issues with it. I'm going to raise up. My hands are big, so I find it hard to get into that little space. So I'm just going to raise the machine up carefully, and I'll put the bobbin case back in that way. And listen for that click. You'll know then it's all way in. Okay. And if we were dealing with the other type of bobbin case, instead of this little finger right here pointing at the 1 o'clock position, we would be snapping it in. There'd be an opening right here, and we'd be snapping it into the 11 o'clock position. So that's the difference between the two and how they fit into that raceway area. All right, so we're going to pull our thread up now, and we'll see if we can resume sewing. We'll sew that one more time and see if we can have a little bit better defined top stitch using our leather needle. Close that. And another little tip about this type of plate is designed for easy removal. So the only thing really holding our feed dog plate in place is going to be this plate, this slider plate right here. When you slide this open, you can see these two little feet sticking out. You got a foot right here. Am I pointing at the right spot? Yeah, you got a foot right here. You have a foot over there. This plate is going to press down and hold this plate in place using this one. Because right now, this one is just over these screws. See that? It lifts up, doesn't it? And the Japanese did that so that it would be easier, potentially, to take this plate out and to service the machine and lubricate it. And then the end of this plate right here, which you probably can't see it, the end of this plate right here is held in place by this screw, that screw right there, that pushes down on the plate. So you've got this slide plate that's holding it down on these 2 feet right here. And you've got this screw over here holding the plate down on this side. That's the only thing that holds it in place when you're sewing. So you've got to make sure that it's slid in properly, or you're going to have issues with that needle hitting the plate because the plate's going to move. So we lock that in. Now the plate is stable. It's being held over here. It's being held over here. You can't see where I'm pointing because I've got the camera over there. Being held over here. And now we've got a stable needle plate. Sort of. Ha ha. All right. Put that in place. All right, so we didn't change the upper tension at all. I'm going to slow down one more time, see if that little adjustment on the bobbin case was enough. It should help if it doesn't zero us in on the point that we want. All right, so look at the stitching here. Look at the stitching that we have right now. We're going to lay down another stitch line. We should see a more pronounced top stitch, hopefully. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's starting to come into form. I wouldn't say we're 100% yet, but it's starting to come into form. It's starting to look more like we want it to look. Let me pull that thread a little bit. That was our first swing at this 100% cotton, and we've got that stiffener in there going through that material with a leather needle. This is our first swing up here. It's a little bit muddled looking, and then we made that subtle adjustment on that bobbin case, and all of a sudden that stitch is coming into form very, very nicely. Coming into form very, very nicely. Yeah, there's a clear difference between the two. So sometimes all it takes is a slight adjustment, as long as you know how to adjust it, to make that stitch better defined, to make it more page 34. But again, the way we can make it really page 34 is to use the right needle, right? We could use the right needle instead of using a harpoon leather needle on cotton. We could be using a universal needle, or maybe a cotton, something else. All right. So let's lay down a zigzag on this cotton, and then we'll get this to the side. And we'll move towards our final sew off. All right, so I'm just going to move us back from 0 to 5 again. Make sure your needle is clear of the material. We got this on 4. We pretty much haven't deviated from that the whole time. We could, before we go to the zigzag, let's do this. Let's shorten that stitch up and do, say, about a 2.5. There we go. Let's just do a real short, stubby stitch. And we'll do that with the same tension adjustments and everything else, okay? All right, here we go. Another straight stitch. We just shorten it up quite a bit, and then we can look at that comparatively. Just going to move this over a little bit. There we go. Yeah. Again, I think we have a little bit of an opportunity to define our upper tension is kind of working harder. Oh, you can't see that. Our upper tension is working a little bit harder than we want it to be. This is our lock stitching down here compared to our top stitching here. Top stitching is coming into form nicely, but we would probably, if we were going to be sewing this all day long, using a leather needle. Hold on one second. I've got a call from Albuquerque, New Mexico. That doesn't happen very often. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, this is Scott.
Good morning. My name is Steve Moresco. I called you yesterday about the sewing machine.
Yeah, Steve, you were calling and asking about a Singer 1591. I'm in a live stream right now. Can I give you a call back?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be here all day.
How's the weather in New Mexico today?
It's not too bad. Another typical bright, sunshiny day. It's a little cool this morning. It's about 40 degrees right now.
Yeah, temperature similar to Kentucky then.
Oh, do we? Yeah, I haven't been in Kentucky since probably the 70s, But yeah, feel free to give me a call back. I didn't know if you would be open on Saturday or not. So
yeah, I live stream usually on Saturdays and Tuesdays. So we're presenting a Japanese machine today that was made by Janome, and it's branded New Home. It belongs to a wonderful gal up in Wisconsin, and it belonged to her mom, and she sewed on all of her life. So, but at any rate, I'll wrap up this live stream, and then I'll reach back out to you.
Yes, sir. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. That's fun. Yeah, we get calls. We get calls from all around the world. I mean, I get calls sometimes in the middle of the night from people that don't realize it's the middle of the night. But that's a gentleman out in New Mexico, and he's watched some of the videos on the channel about the Singer 1591. Now, some of you are saying, what the heck is a Singer 1591? It is the potted version of the 201-2 that was used to sew the interior leather panels on the Rolls Royce. So it's just a smaller version. And like Julie's machine, the 1591 has an oscillating hook system instead of a rotary hook system. So if this gentleman ends up moving forward with the machine that we have for him, we'll eventually be presenting this machine, the 1591, same hook system as the one that we're using today, and probably about the same size machine too. It's a lot of similarities. And then we'll be shipping that out to New Mexico. So anyway, sorry about that. I wanted to take the call because I wasn't sure who it was initially, but that is our friend out there. Yeah. Has anyone ever been to New Mexico before? I was there years ago when I was working in healthcare. I went down to help their hospice. They were running a hospice program down there. They were having some challenges, and I was like an operations guy. So I went down there to help them fine tune their hospice program and get it back on track and get it successful and get happy customers and all that. And that's the only time I've ever been to New Mexico and that was like a million years ago. Susie and I both have healthcare backgrounds, if you didn't know that. So yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, we made improvements on this, but like the canvas, this harpoon-sized leather needle is not a huge fan of cotton. It's not a huge fan of cotton. It's done a decent job, but it would do a lot better if we had a universal needle in here. So that's our short stitch there, probably about 8 to 10, well, probably about 8 to 10 stitches per inch, and then our larger stitch up here. But none of the stitching compared to the leather output that we're getting is comparative. Here's our lock stitching. It's a little bit more on target. It's a little bit more on target. We've got a good lock stitching, but we're struggling a little bit with the cotton. We're struggling a little bit with the canvas with the setup that we have. When this machine leaves the workshop to go to Julie, it's going to have a universal needle. I just decided to go with a harpoon leather needle today in memory of Sonny. It's a win on certain things. It's a struggle on others. And that's okay, because we understand what we need to do to make that even better. But still, it's better stitching than what it was doing when it came into the workshop, even with the setup we have. All right, let's lay down a zigzag, and then we'll move into some leather sewing for our final finale of sewing in a circle. All right, I'm going to move our stitch width back to 5. I'm going to move our stitch length back to 4, and we'll lay down our maximum zigzag stitch. There we go. I sometimes forget to adjust the camera, but I didn't that time, thankfully. All right, here goes our zigzag. And the Schmetz people are saying, Scott. The people at Schmetz, the people at Schmetz are very fond of us. They love us. We love them. But they'd be like, Scott, can't you just use the right needle? If you're going to sew all those materials, can't you just use the right needle? All right, here's our zigzag. We'll take a look at our zigzag, and then we'll move into the leather realm again, so we can showcase the Schmetz leather needle. So here's our top stitching on the zigzag. Again, because the zigzag is kind of I would call it a self-balancing stitch. Because, oh, look what I did. Did I sew over the material? No, I didn't. Okay. Because the zigzag has those 3 points of contact, and it's a self-balancing stitch, it doesn't struggle with the tension as much using a leather needle as the straight stitching. So we go across and look at that zigzag. It's just absolutely as it should be. Beautiful, beautiful zigzag stitch. Whereas we were struggling because the straight stitching only has 2 points of contact, right? The zigzag has 3 points of contact. Yeah, turn it over, look at the lock stitching. Again, because it's a self-balancing stitch. Beautiful, beautiful lock stitching on the zigzag as well. And the straight stitch didn't do horrible, but it's really not a page 34 straight stitch. Not quite as good as we want it to be. All right, so finally, I'm going to put to rest. The Schmetz people watching this either now or later can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to be sewing any other weird materials using their leather needle. Now we're going to go back to leather. Okay? All right, so let me set that to the side. And we will do the protected full grain leather like I promised. I'm going to hold off on this cowhide. I'll set that to the side for another live stream. We'll go ahead and do some of this protected full grain leather. And then we'll move into our final finale sew off. This stuff has a really, really thick nap on the back of it, so it's a little bit hard to get it underneath that presser foot. Doing the best I can. All right, there we go. I think I got it. Sort of, kind of. All right, sort of got it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to, let's see here. All right. I'll do it backwards again. I'll go ahead and do the zigzag, and then I'll do the straight stitch. So we're going to go through 2 layers of this protected full grain leather. I didn't show you from the side. It's probably about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. Hopefully you can see that in the shot. Yeah, you can see it. I'm looking at the laptop now. So we're dealing with about 6 to 8 ounces of leather, probably about 3 millimeters thick. Not an easy sew off, but we've got the benefit of our Schmetz size 100, which equates to a size 16 leather needle. So I think we'll do just fine. Here goes our zigzag, and then we'll move into a straight stitch after that. Oh, did you see that? Again, because of our hook system, it doesn't have as much force coming down as it does coming back up. So we kind of struggled a little bit. We kind of hit that leather and it kind of stopped. Did you see that? Now we're going to continue through because our needle is down, and we'll see if we can finish off this zigzag. Oh, I got to give a little bit of a boost. Here we go. Certain leathers will challenge you more than other leathers, but the end result is we've got a beautiful zigzag. See if I can pull this out, and we'll take a peek at this, and then we'll move into our straight stitch right after that. So just realize, depending on the hook system that your machine has, you may have to adjust your approach on some of the heavier duty sewing. And that might also equate to quilting as well. If you're going through 6 to 8 layers of quilting material with the quilt batting and everything else, you might, and if you're using an oscillating hook type system, you might have to revert to a down push instead of an up push. But the result is we got a beautiful stitch. We'll take a look at the zigzag first, and then we'll look at the straight stitch after that. Put my hand behind it, see if that helps the camera a little bit. Yeah, it does. There's our zigzagging. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. And again, the thickness is pretty noteworthy. I mean, look at the thickness of that stuff. And again, protected full grain leather has that chemical treatment, so it makes the piercing threshold even higher. We'll turn it over, look at the lock stitching. We've got a light nap against light thread, so I may have to kind of pull it back a little bit to show it to you. Yeah, very nice. No issues, again, because we have that self-balancing quality of the zigzag having those 3 points of contact with the material. And so we don't struggle as much with tension, and especially not on leather using a leather needle. It does a beautiful job. It's a little bit hard to see, but some beautiful zigzag lock stitching as well. There, that camera's going, hey, I don't want to focus. There we go. So some beautiful zigzagging on this protected full grain leather, 2 layers of it. Again, probably about 8 ounces of leather, something like that. See it right there. Now we're going to try laying down a straight stitch on this as well. I'll adjust our machine back from the widest zigzag back down to 0 so we can do our straight stitching. And again, whenever you're changing any of the settings on your machine, make sure that needle is clear of the material so you don't bend it. Make sure you don't bend it. All right, we're set on our longest stitch length. Our stitch width is back on 0. Our needle position is still in the middle. We haven't done anything with that. Now we're going to try to do our straight stitch down the same 2 layers of protected full grain leather. Here, because we don't have that needle swing launch, we might be able to get through this without as much struggle, at least a launch, than we did with the zigzag. Let's see if we do. Get our presser, get our take up arm all the way up, and let's give this a swing. Here we go. Yeah, it's still paused a little bit. It's still paused on that downstroke. This is a tough leather to get through. I would say protected full grain leather is probably one of the toughest leathers to get through. Till you try some of the Italian ones, and it's like, oh, maybe that's tougher. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. And Schmetz, our friends at Schmetz are saying, well, yeah, it's beautiful stitching because you're finally sewing leather with a leather needle, Scott. Hello, hello. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at these stitches as well. We're looking at the straight and the zigzag kind of side by side. Once the camera says, yeah, I'll focus now. Certain colors the camera struggles with more. When you're dealing with light thread against light leather like this, it has a little bit more difficulty. I'm going to put my hands into the picture as well, see if that helps. There we go. Folks, that is gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. Beautiful stitching, the spacing, the formation, an entire presentation of that stitch is just absolutely spot on. The zigzag and also the straight stitch as well. Kind of go across like this. Absolutely gorgeous. It doesn't get much better than that. That is absolutely a page 34 a top stitch. That's a page 34 top stitch, both on the zigzag and the straight stitch. And yes, I'm using a leather needle to sew leather. Who knew? Who knew that makes a difference? It does. It does help for sure. There's our lock stitching. We'll take a look at the straight stitch. We've already looked at the zigzag a little bit. I'll pull it back as best as I can. Get over here. Kind of hard to see it. It kind of embeds itself in that nap a little bit. Well, all I can say is it's a beautiful, beautiful lock stitching. And again, because we're using leather with a leather needle at this point, we're not having as much of a struggle. We're not having any struggle at all with maintaining that proper stitch tension balance. Beautiful, beautiful straight stitching, beautiful lock stitching all the way around. Hard to see it on there, I know, but it's there. Very, very nice. All right, so we did our protected full grain leather. I'll show you the sew off stuff that we've done so far, just to give you a recap of it, kind of our little sewing Olympics, if you will. We've done denim. I think we did 6 layers of denim. 6 layers of denim. We got a beautiful zigzag and a beautiful straight stitch on there. And 6 layers of denim, again, is not an easy sew off. We did the canvas. We only did 2 layers of the canvas, and we struggled a little bit maintaining the stitch tension. That leather needle just didn't get along with the woven characteristics of that canvas. And so we struggled a little bit there, not so much with the zigzag. The zigzag had those 3 points of contact. It did a brilliant job, but the straight stitching gave us a little bit more of a challenge. We could totally eliminate that challenge if we go with a universal needle on this canvas material. They get along real well together. Same thing with the cotton. Cotton and the leather needle they weren't the best of buddies. So we struggled a little bit more in maintaining that tension balance with the straight stitching. Not again, no issue with the zigzag. And earlier on in the live stream, we did this hardened leather. This machine and this needle loves leather. It loves leather. So we laid down just absolutely drop dead gorgeous zigzag stitching and also gorgeous straight stitching as well with that hardened leather on there. Just absolutely gorgeous. And then we sewed this Italian style leather. This stuff here, 2 layers of that. Really, really a booger of a sew off. But Julie's mom's machine did just a fabulous job with it, both with the zigzagging and the straight stitching. And the same thing with the protected full grain leather that we just did. You couldn't get a more perfect stitch. I mean, it's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. So already on this live stream, we've done all of this sewing on here. That should be enough, right? That should be enough, but it isn't. We got to do our sewing in a circle. We got to do our sewing in a circle. And that's where I take a leather, this is actually a leather vinyl mix. And we're going to be sewing in a circle on this leather, Italian leather on the top. And then it's got a vinyl backing with kind of a felt thing on it. Kind of a tricky material to sew, but I think we'll do just fine with it. So I appreciate all of you joining us today, for this celebration of this fabulous Model 444 made by Janome, branded as a new home. It's been in Julie's family forever. Her mom sewed on it, and really, really just a wonderful machine to grow up with, and the matching outfits and all the other fun stuff that Mitzi did to forge those memories in the memories of her children, both Julie and her sister Gina, and even her brother Jim, I think probably remembers and has fond memories of her mom sitting down to this fabulous machine and creating those wonderful outfits that they could celebrate and grow up with. And it's just cool. It's super cool to do that. So thank you also to the leadership team for taking care of the family. I know our audience on Saturdays in particular fluctuates. We can have a huge audience and then people will get busy. They'll have to step away. I don't know how many people we had in the live stream today at the peak, probably almost 2,000 people. But now we've got our intimate audience of the people that stuck it to the end. And I'm always grateful for those dedicated folks that they're with us from the beginning to the end, even after the crowd steps away and the dust settles. We've got those faithful few that will stick with us until the very end. So I'm going to put on some music for our Sew Off in a Circle, and then we will wrap up this live stream. God bless you all. Happy New Year. Again, if it's your birthday this month, or if it was your birthday last month in December, happy birthday to you. I'm hoping you have all of your dreams come true in the new year. Some of them come true, some of them won't. But count your blessings. I think it was, golly gee, who was the author? There was a famous author that had a saying of, it might have been Charles Dickens. I'm pretty sure it was Charles Dickens. He said, start every new year counting your blessings, of which there are many, not your misfortunes, of which there are few. I think that's worth quoting a second time. Charles Dickens, I believe it was, it said, start your new year counting your blessings, of which there are many, not your misfortunes, of which there are few. So that's great, great sound, sage advice for all of us as we start a new year. Count your blessings. You're always going to have more blessings than misfortunes. And if you focus on those blessings, guess what? God is faithful and he'll send you more blessings to overshadow those misfortunes. Okay? All right. We'll see you again soon. Probably, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, as they say down this way. And I'm trying to decide what to put on as far as sewing in a circle. I don't want to do birthday music, and I don't want to do Japanese music. So what would I put on? What do I put on? I'll put on some Irish music. I have no idea why. I'll put on some Irish music to wrap up this live stream as we sew in a circle. I sewed off. Hold on. I got to tell you all, it is challenging to sew pushing with my right hand, which is my dominant hand with the knee controller, and then trying to steer the material with the left hand. That's my complaint for the day. Yeah. All right. Back to Irish music. All right. I give up. God bless everybody. Take care. We'll see you again soon. Ooh, that's fun.